Transition, the process of change from one condition to another.
We are now at a new crossroad where change is evident once again.
What does not serve us must transform us anew.
Returning to our original state of oneness and true nature of that which created who we truly are.
Confusion was the way of the past. Enlightenment is the way of the now and future, shedding away the layers of deceit.
We now bring you the transformation of the two who started as one. Our fearless planet never stands still.
Earth has been in a process of transition, and we are not exempt from this remarkable ongoing reality.
Welcome to Transition Radio.
Well, hello and welcome. Welcome to Transition Radio's Real Talk with the Cummings. My name's Mark Angelo.
And I'm Lena Ariel. And we're
The
so
Cummings.
happy to be here.
Yes,
tonight.
and we're happy to be here. We're happy that you all are here. And thanks everyone for joining and being in chat.
Yeah, we have Kitten XT, Lori Chavez, Tracy Evernizzi, and one more, Persivla.
Yes, welcome. And thank you for
guys.
tuning in. Today we have an amazing guest, and we always love to have guests on the show because that way it's not just us blabbing away or talking and trying to figure out what the topic is going to be like. And we just love the interaction. I mean, to me, what are humans if we don't get to it? I mean, that's what it's all about.
Building community.
Learning and growing from one another, breaking the walls of this dogma that we have been taught to believe in and evolving and growing as spirit beings.
Allowing ourselves to be vulnerable.
Exactly. And that's important. We need to learn to accept that vulnerability. We need to learn to not feel so hurt and afraid to be judged or afraid to judge. And it's like truth is what's going to set us free. So we could be truthful with one another and like break all these walls and all these barriers.
Preconceived notions.
Exactly. That's how we get to that heart. That's how we get to that area right there. Yeah. And that's an awesome thing. I know that's what I look forward to on a daily basis, Well, today's guest, her name is Micki Moritz. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. She's a special soul, in my opinion, who considers herself an Aspie. And Aspie means Asperger, for those that don't know. I'm an Aspie.
Me too.
And there's so many of us that are. We wanted her to share her story with the Global Witness family.
She is a spirit humbled by the truth, and she was born awake. She believes this is from her autism. She has had many spiritual experiences, and on both sides of the spirit. She has a degree in theology and religious sciences. And Micki also has one in psychology.
Yeah.
That's probably screwed me up a lot in life, she says.
Yeah. The more you know, the harder it is. She has moments of ascension, but pride really kept her locked into ego, hasn't it, to most of us? It was her experience that has occurred. It was the experience that has occurred recently that has helped her truly look at this deception within herself. Her motto is, if I learn something, if I love something, if I laugh every day, then I live every day. And she's super excited to be on the show.
We're super excited
to have her. And welcome to the show, Micki.
Hi, how you doing?
Good. So glad to have you.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here. This is really cool. You guys are awesome. You guys are really beautiful. And I really thank you for allowing me to take up some of your space.
Hey, we love to share a space. I mean, that's what it's all about. It's how can we learn about ourselves if we were just by ourselves? We need to learn from one another. I think that's why the great creator created us all, so he could actually learn about himself, if you really think about it.
It's true. Like somebody mentioned that. They said maybe God, this essence, is learning through our experience.
What do you think about that, Micki?
I think that's totally true. As an empath, I think that it's more like being a window for the spirit. To be able to see things that they can't necessarily see through the veil, human interactions and human emotion, things that they don't have access to. And I think as an empath, I'm kind of a little window for God. So in that way.
Yes, yes. And then talking about empathy, because I know that I have felt the same way from the time I was little. Sometimes when I was younger, it was even worse because I was more open. As I got older, I kind of closed myself.
Down,
yeah, you shut down because sometimes it's too much. But I think that it's both a gift and a curse at the same time, because not every soul or spirit out there is always in the light. You know, that some people get into this darkness and they're like vampires and they leash on and they kind of suck away your energy. So it's very difficult to be an empath. I mean, I know that I've shut down. How have you felt with having this gift? How have you learned to navigate through life?
Initially, I didn't get it because as a young person, I didn't have a wide range of emotion. I was very much more autistic than I am now. I don't. So I didn't understand when I would feel these things. It was almost like something bumping into me that I didn't understand. And why am I feeling rage, or why am I, as I got older and lived in a big city, I did bump into a lot of people who weren't in the light, and I made me physically ill. It made me crazy. I had to turn it off for a long time. I'm just now learning to use that, you know. I used it intermittently to judge people and to say, well, that's a bad person because, they made me feel bad, or that person's good. And I don't have any right to do that. But my ego and my pride and my self-righteousness instead of God's righteousness made me think that I had every right in the world to do that as a elevated being. I'm smarter than you. I'm more spiritual than you, blah, blah, blah. But
and we could take that as a lesson that maybe our Father Source is trying to teach us, and probably even trying to learn himself. It's like, okay, why am I feeling this way? Why do I feel that I'm better than you? Why am I like trying to judge you? But then as we evolve and grow, we start saying, wait a minute, everyone's entitled to their belief. Everyone's entitled to their opinion. We can learn to coexist and share each other's experience. And that's how we grow and learn, versus just attacking and just thinking, well, I know it all, so I'm just, I'm going to tell you how to do things. And isn't that what religion does?
Well, I mean, that's what we're all about. We're about acceptance, love, restoration, a place where people can come if they feel like they're misfits, that they don't fit in, that their family doesn't understand them. That's what we do,
right.
I mean, and yeah, the religious system has pronounced judgment on people like us,
So tell us a little bit about your upbringing as far as your religious beliefs and how you grew up.
I grew up Mormon. So that's a very strict religion. When I was a kid, you went to church, actually to the church building like 5 times a week for something. Your friends were Mormon, your sports were Mormon. So it very secluded, very dogmatic. And there were no answers. And if you asked questions, oh, God forbid if a woman asks a question, but if you ask questions, they're not answered. You're told that you don't have faith if you don't believe it blindly. Very hard for me to access God, as a child, because I was so inside. But I knew there was something more than me. And I knew that people and things were not being who they said they were. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And I knew there was more, and I couldn't explain it because I was a child. But then I got out of that as a young teenager. I said, screw that stuff. And of course, I went straight the opposite way. And I studied the Golden Dawn. I studied Satanism, all that, and witchcraft, paganism, all that good stuff. And that didn't get me anywhere either. It got very, very scary. Some very scary things happened, and I kind of tried to back out of it. Then I decided to go to college and just study it all. So I could have a degree, and then I got I'm a ordained minister, so I can stand on my soapbox and nobody can tell me not to. And there's more of that pride, you know. This has been a reoccurring theme to me, or at least I'm just looking at this theme now because it's unwrapping itself. You
And that's
know,
very interesting that you say that, because I grew up Jehovah's Witness, and that kind of turned me off. And I also went into learning about the tarot cards and all the pendulum and how to move objects and how to do all this sort of stuff. And I became very fearful of that, because in my heart, I knew that was not the way. You know, not that healing is a bad thing or that having these special gifts is a bad thing. It's how you use them. You know, that is where the discernment lies. And I hate to label anything good or bad, because everything, in my opinion, has a purpose. You take fire, for instance. Fire could burn your house down, could burn you and kill you, or fire could warm you and serve for cooking and all sorts of different things.
And darkness really gets a bad rap, because darkness is necessary. Because if you didn't have the opposite, then how would you know when the sun was going to come up? You know, because it dispels the darkness, but the darkness is important. You
Exactly.
know?
I think it's important to know each side and to, you know, gravitate obviously to what feels right for you as a person, and to not harm people, not harm yourself, and to, yes, believe that there is a higher power. So you said, and I know that in religion it's very misogynistic, and women are not to be, they're to be seen but not heard, kind of, you know, that kind of thing. How did that make you feel?
I really felt unimportant. But at the same time, so as a kid, I felt like I had this purpose, or that I was something different. I knew I was different. And I felt like that I had a purpose, but I was being squashed. And no, you don't have a purpose. And no, you know, you're a woman, and your purpose is to get married and have children and take care of your children. I didn't want to do that. I wanted to be a research psychiatrist or something, or an astronomer or something weird, you know. I also, the thing about my childhood is that my mother was severely mentally ill and severely abusive. Um, thank God I was born awake, because I was able to see that it was her and her demons, and not me, and not something that I had done. I think that saved me. My sisters are really messed up because of it, but the abuse. But that is also because of that dynamic with my mother. That's where some maybe gender issues came into play for me as well, you know?
I could relate with that totally. Totally. I mean, the whole concept of, with me trying to seek my mother's love, and it was never, nothing that I could ever do was ever good enough. And she had her own set of issues, thyroid problems, and I can't blame her for being her. She's playing her role, because I believe we all have roles here on this planet to play. And to become a victim is easy, and to point fingers at others is easy too, but to recognize that there is a divine plan behind it all. As awful as it may seem, there is a beautiful and divine plan being set forth. So, you know, hence why I did what I did, you know, because I wanted to be heard. I wanted to have power like men did, and I didn't want to feel like my mom made me feel or my father made me feel. So go into a little bit more. So you kind of resented the fact that you were born this gender that people wanted to kick around, and you didn't have a voice. So what did you do?
I got crazy. I did. And, you know, I believe that it is absolutely natural and normal for adolescent children to explore their sexuality, and explore what their attraction is, whether it's the same sex or opposite sex or whatever. And so I started doing that, and I found that it really pissed off my parents. So that was a good driving force, you know. Then the community really welcomed me, you know, like they wanted me to be Miss Full-Time Lesbian. But that wasn't enough for me, because it's just never enough, you know. We get ingrained with that, right? That it's never going to be good enough. It's never enough. We just keep pushing it. I remember at one time in my very early 20s, I wanted to be a female bodybuilder, and like, and that's very masculine, you know, but I was going to.
I was a female bodybuilder. I was running or something, you know.
Yeah.
Yep. And then I thought I should be a boy. I don't know where the idea came from. It just kind of happened in my head one moment. And really, honestly, it was really tied to sex. It really didn't have anything to do with any other part of my life, really, except for my sexuality. And it was crazy. I broke up a relationship with a really wonderful man, told him that, you know, you're wrong sex and I'm not going to be with you. And he's like, what happened to Micki? You know, it was almost like I was brainwashed for a little while. I went to church with my grandmother, and this lady got up and started talking about her testimony. In the middle of her testimony, she started talking about affection for women. And she said something like, you're misconstruing your love for women, and it's okay to love women and have a deep relationship with them. That doesn't mean you need to sleep with them. And at that point, other women in the church tried to grab her and pull her down. And she said, no, I have to say this. The Spirit's making me say this. And she said, you don't have to be confused by that. You just let the Spirit lead you. And it's okay to love women, and it's okay to have a relationship with them. It doesn't mean that you have to sleep with them. And it really struck me, and I really thought about it for a long time, but that was the Spirit talking to me. And at that point I said, you know, I better just accept God made this. He made it like it is. Maybe it's not the world's responsibility to accept me for what I decide to be, but maybe it's my responsibility to accept me for what I am.
You hit the nail on the head. And I wanted to share, Tracy said, born awake, interesting. I think I relate on this, and awareness that my spirit came from source. And so she agreed. She goes, me too. And bodybuilder, I guess that Tracy became a bodybuilder as well, but never did it or wanted to. So, I mean, I think there's a lot of people in this world, whether it's from an upbringing, from the religious dogma, from trying to experiment with our duality, because I believe we all have a male and a female side. And I think we all have the capability of being bisexual. You know, and I don't think that that is wrong per se, experimenting with our sexuality. I'm not God. I can't say if it is or not. Right. But it's interesting that, you know, it's like I hear you speak and I can relate totally, except that I drank the Kool-Aid and went all the way. You know, and I don't want to say I regret it, because I think that everything in life happens for a reason. I got to meet this beautiful human being. Had I not done this, we would have never met. No. And God is using it for his purpose. But I think there's so many people like you, like me, like Lena, like all of us out there that have really been faced with this. And some of us just really didn't know what to do with it. And I commend you for standing up, for like really doing what you had to do, which I believe was the right thing.
Thank you.
And I think that, you know, it is okay to be able to, it's like God gives you grace to be able to ask these questions and to be able to not feel condemned for feeling the way you feel or trying to make sense of it. You know what I mean? Because so many times the church just comes against you. And, you know, coming from a fundamental Christian background, I was always taught, oh, no, you can't do this. You can't do that. Can't do this. Can't do that, you know. And then when you get older, you're like, why can't I do that? Is it really that bad? You know, and then why do I feel this way? And it's like you feel like you feel convicted for asking questions. You know, it's like it's wrong.
Well, we're ever evolving, you know, and growing. And I'm sure, like you mentioned, the relationship with your mom and like the relationship with mine kind of skewed things a little bit and had us like I tried looking in women what I didn't get from my mother. Was that your case?
Exactly. And in fact, even with my relationships, romantic relationships with males, I find that, how do I put this? Narcissistic people are very much attracted to autistic people and empaths. And I always pick these people. Possibly my mother was a little bit narcissistic. I picked them and they're broken. And I use that relationship to try to fix that, whatever it was between me and my mother. I gave up on that, of course, but for a long time, I felt like that's what I was doing.
Let me stop you for a second. That's a very interesting point, because when we are raised in a dysfunctional home, and we have a narcissistic or two narcissistic parents, we grow up with thinking that we could help fix people. And then what tends to happen is we attract people that need fixing, and we think that's our role.
That's true.
And then our entire life revolves around that, and we learn later that we can't fix anyone. Either you love somebody how they are, or you're going to be miserable. Please continue.
Oh no, that was a very good point. Yeah, you can't fix anybody. The only person you can fix is yourself. But you know, in relationships, we tend to subjugate ourselves for the other person. Like a narcissist will tell you, straight up lie to you and tell you, you didn't see that, you didn't hear that, and then you start to go, wait, did I? So you have to. I mean, these people are dangerous, and I always say, if you encounter one, just run far and fast. But the healing from it is learning to trust your soul and trust what the spirit tells you. Trust your own intuition and trust who you are. That's hard to do, though. That's very difficult to do, especially if you've been a victim of abuse.
And I find, Micki, that there's so many of us that are a victim or have been a victim of abuse, whether it's sexual abuse, whether emotional abuse, whether it's physical abuse. I mean, unfortunately, parents are not given a manual and say, here, read this before you have a kid so you don't screw that kid up. Anybody and everybody has children, and we have no manual. And so, unfortunately, these childhood traumas cause adult behavior disorders. And we're looking at a world right now that's full of hurt and broken people. And we're trying to find things to heal ourselves, whether it's numb ourselves with drug, alcohol, food, sex, you name it, religion, all sorts of different things that we use to try to cope. And what we need to understand that we need to drop that ego, we need to drop all these vices and try to go within and then learn to communicate and connect with one another, because that's what God wants us to do. You know, that I believe is going to be our true healing.
And, you know, the whole concept of like, well, why do you believe in God? Or why do you think that he exists? Even, you know, that ultimate question. And many times people will then venture to say, well, it's because I feel this way or feel that way. And it's like, what you're talking about is more like of a spiritual awareness, intuition, something that goes beyond that soul level of feeling, because feelings can be misconstrued, can be abused, can be like misunderstood, you know, so they're faulty because they come from that soul level.
It's a knowing that we have. What do you think about that, Micki?
I think that's absolutely true. I think in my struggle to find God, and I do this because I have this thing about the ultimate God. That's what I always say.
Cool.
Because there's a whole bunch of little gods. I'm all about the ultimate God. So for me, I literally had to step out in faith and be able to open my eyes, ask God to open my eyes to see the work that he was doing in my life. Because if I didn't see it tangibly, it was very hard for me to grasp onto concepts. So I have seen God tangibly work in my life. I have seen miracles. I have synchronicities, things that are not humanly possible, but everything's possible through God. So for me, that was my step from going from I believe in God, but I don't really know what that is, to having an understanding of the spirit.
And that's something, you know, there's a lot of atheists and a lot of scientists that, you know, tell me, well, give me proof. There's no tangible proof per se that God exists. However, there is a knowing. And if you look at what God is, and if we are made in the image of God, then you're a God, I am a God, Lynn is a God, every single person that's watching this podcast right now are gods. And that's something that we could believe in, because I see you and you see me. One of my favorite lines in the movie Avatar was, I see you.
Yeah.
You know?
That was good.
And that, if we ever question that there is something higher that we can't put in a box, that we can't label, that we can't give it a name, even though human beings try, is that knowing you, knowing me, knowing what we're all about, knowing this knowing that we have, because it's not a feeling, it's a knowing, then we have to know that there is something. We don't know what its name or her name or his name is, but we know that it's something. I think where we have failed miserably as a species is that we've all tried to market this God, put this God in a box and call it mine. And when we learn to stop doing that, when we learn to let's gracefully accept the definition of what God is for each and every one of us, and accept that we all have God within us, then maybe we could change this world. I wanted to read a comment here by Hannah Truth. She said, I was in a relationship with a narcissist for 5 years. Only now I can say, looking back, it was my crucifixion. And I'm thankful now, for I have grown so much. What do you think of that statement? I believe that's true. Being with a narcissist is definitely an amazing thing because it teaches you so much.
Definitely. Teaches you about yourself. You can study a narcissist all day long, whatever. They're still going to be who they're going to be at the end of the day. Relationship, they're dangerous psychologically, but when you come out, if you're strong enough to come out and put yourself back together, you are going to be 10 times stronger than you were before. I think that's just my personal opinion, but
it's like studying warfare. When you're with a narcissist, it's like that narcissist is helping you bring up your defenses and bring up the things that you need in life to navigate. That's why I don't believe there's anything bad in this world, because every bad things that happen to us in the end becomes something good and makes us stronger.
I really resonate with that, because I know that parts of our relationship have been me narcissist, you healer. And, it's been, can a narcissist heal? Yeah, they can, it takes time, but they have to get out of their own way. They have to get out of their own self-centered idea of who they are. And, when you first met me, you were sort of a narcissist yourself.
I was, but then seeing you hurt and seeing this person in a hospital bed for the first time, helpless, it's almost
unable to move.
I was no longer thinking just about myself, because this transition thing really made me self-centered. I was like, now I've got to take care of this other person, and they're relying on me. There's nobody else here to help them, and nobody will. So it's like it melted away my needs. And then it was like spirit, like, now it's your turn to see what you put other people through. And so I got blessed with this beautiful narcissist individual. And I was like, I need to heal you. I need to heal you. But, if you don't look at it as need to heal, look at it at this person has been hurt, because we develop narcissism as a self-defense mechanism. Okay, so narcissistic people are not all bad, are all damaging, but they're damaged goods and they're hurt. And so that narcissism is like this armor that we put on, and it's like, I'm not going to care about anybody else. I'm just going to care about myself. But eventually that melts away. And it can be a beautiful thing. What do you think about that?
Well, I do know that people on the autistic scale do present certain symptomology that mirrors or looks like narcissism, but is not actually true narcissism, because actually what they do say, and I don't know, I mean, whatever, but true narcissism, they lack the ability to look inward. They lack the ability to see themselves for what they are. And that's the hardest part. If they can't look inward, they can't fix anything. So, and yeah, they are beautiful people, obviously, because, I had relationships with them. And I think they're beautiful,
So there's a difference, though, between being narcissistic as a verb and being a narcissist, which is a noun.
And I think there's different types of narcissism. The psychopathic. I mean, there's a whole slew of different types. And I mean, because a real, true hardcore narcissist could end up being a serial killer. Like we watched that movie, the guy who killed Versace. Some of them are like, whoa, and I think we develop a narcissistic personality when, I guess, as a form of, defense for some of us. So I guess there are different ways of
the spectrum.
The spectrum. So looking back, with that at one point that you felt that you should have been a boy. How did you handle it that you were able to totally like detour yourself from that thought?
I'm telling you, it was that woman standing up in church and giving that speech or that testimony about my love for women, and that made, when she said that, I really examined myself and my motives, and I had to think. I had asked myself, are you really attracted to women? Are you really trying to fill some void here, trying to fix something? And I couldn't come up with a good answer for myself at that point. So I decided it's better to leave things the way they are. I continued to dress like a male at that point, which is really funny because I have a very woman body. But I dressed like a boy. I had a shaved head. I ran around in combat boots, but I would not accept myself as a woman. I didn't want, and then I had somebody come up to me and said, "You need to really get in touch with your female energy." And I said, "What are you talking about?" They said, "You're all off balance. You got too much masculine energy going on." I said, "But you can only have one or the other." And they laughed and walked away from me.
That's crazy when I hear stuff like that. You can only have one or the other.
That was me saying that, though.
Oh, okay. Because I think a lot of people, and that's why we're seeing this massive gender confusion, because people believe that, well, if you're a boy, you're supposed to act a certain way, and if you're a girl, you're supposed to act another certain way. And I think as human beings, we have a little mixture of different personalities, and then depending on our upbringing, these personalities kind of venturing, and we mature and grow into being a certain adult. I think there's nothing wrong with a man being feminine, and I don't think there's anything wrong with a woman being masculine, because we don't all fit into a very neat little box, in my opinion. And I think, go ahead.
I have a saying, and it is, there is no box. The box is an illusion. So I don't fit into a box. I can now, at 50 years old, I can be me, good, bad, or indifferent, whatever that is. I can embrace it when I want to go out and chop wood and act like a boy and burp and scratch my butt. And then I can, some days I feel like being pretty, being a girl and doing so-called girly things, but really I'm the same person throughout all these activities. I'm just me. And I think that when you were talking like yesterday or last night on your show about being able to integrate that and being able to be whole, with both sides of you, and that's really what God wants us. I think that's really where we need to be, is to be able to integrate both sides of ourselves.
I totally agree with you. One of the things that I miss the most is being able to do that. There were days that I felt more girly and whatever for that, how much girly I could be, but there were days that I felt that way, and there were days that I felt that I wanted to be more masculine, and I was able to integrate back and forth. Wanted to cut my hair short for a while, I want to let it grow, and I can't do that now, and I think that the beauty of the gift that we have from our Creator, since I believe our Creator is both male and female, as the Bible states in Genesis, created in his likeness, male and female, he created them, that, we have that capability of being both the yin and the yang. And it's learning how to balance that is what makes us a whole person.
I think what's really missing in society these days is the fact that patriarchal masculine energy has been so dominant for so long. And I really do believe that God of all, like you were saying, right? She is the dualistic combination. Like, we can't be like him, her, unless we have that understanding of both. It's almost like we need that feminine energy in this world so badly right now, and we need the masculine energy to remain, but it can't be one or the other.
Exactly. Let's share some of the comments here. Hannah says, I'm an empath too. Jason says,
I am a little fella, but I have a big heart and I'm comfortable with myself. I sometimes cry like a real man.
And that's beautiful, Jason. I think one of the downfalls of humanity is the
don't
suppression,
cry.
you know, and I think that's why religion is so dogmatic, because it's so masculine driven. You know, if religion had more feminine energy, it would be a different thing altogether. Anna said, I've always felt inside I'm both female and male, and I believe we all are. Maybe a little bit more than another, maybe, you know, a little different mix, but I believe because we are part of the great I am source, that energy is like, you can't, you know, you can't connect an electrical device to an outlet unless you have both prongs, negative and the positive, female and male. We need both. Your opinion on that, Micki?
I like to use the 3 prongs, the one with the grounding on it, because I always need to be grounded.
There you go.
Right?
There you go.
You get shocked.
Yeah, or else you get. But I think it's a beautiful thing. You know, that's what I like a lot about Eastern philosophy. You know, it's not so dogma like Western philosophy is. You know, it's they bring in more of that feminine, you know, drive to beliefs, and I think that's so important to actually evolve as a spirit being. So
yeah, they have what they call the path. I studied something called Sufi, but it's not really, you can't really call it Sufi because there's nothing, there's no hierarchy, there's no nothing. It's just a path of wisdom. They teach you, tell you stories, and you learn from stories, you learn from life, and it's about becoming. And what I found was really interesting about most of these Sufi writings that come from the between the 10th and the 13th century is they're very, very open. They there's a story about a trans person. I mean, way back in the day. There's stories about bestiality. But it's really a lesson in moderation. There's all kinds of things, and I enjoy teaching stories because they help me to learn. They help me to be able to reflect and see where I'm at, rather than somebody like standing up there going, well, you gotta believe this, and the Bible says this, and if you don't do that, you're going to hell. And you know, hell is a state of mind.
Exactly. Hell is here on earth, you know, and we make our own hell.
Yeah.
You have a poem that you wanted to share with us and our viewers. Stage is yours.
Okay. This poem is called Moses and the Shepherd, and it is by Jawad and Rumi, and it was written in about 1235 AD. And so here goes. Moses heard a shepherd on the road praying, God, where are you? I want to help you. I want to fix your shoes and comb your hair. I want to wash your clothes and pick your lice off. I want to bring you milk and kiss your little hands and feet when it's time for you to go to bed. I want to sweep your room and keep it neat. God, my sheep and my goats are all yours. All I can say remembering you is ah and ah. Moses could stand it no longer. He said, who are you talking to? The shepherd said, the one who made us, the one who made the earth and made the sky. Moses said, don't talk about shoes and socks with God. And what's with your little hands and feet? Such blasphemous familiarity sounds like you're chatting with your uncles. Only something that grows needs milk. Only someone with feet needs shoes, not God. Even if you mean God's humans representatives, as when God said, I was sick and you did not visit me. Even then, this tone would be foolish and irreverent. Use appropriate terms. Fatima is a fine term for a woman, but not for a man. Well, I lost my spot. Okay. Where is it? And wait here. Okay, sorry, I lost my way. Okay. But if you call a man Fatima, it's an insult. Body and birth language are right for us on this side of the river, but not for addressing the origin, and not for Abba. The shepherd repented and tore his clothes inside and wandered out into the desert. A sudden revelation then came to Moses. God's voice. You have separated me from one of my own. Did you come as a prophet to unite or to sever? I have given each being a separate and unique way of seeing and saying that knowledge. What seems to be wrong to you is right for him. What is poison to one is honey to someone else. Purity, impurity, sloth, and diligence in worship, they mean nothing to me. I am apart from all that. Ways of worshiping are not to be ranked as better or worse than another. Hindu do Hindu things. Muslims in India do what they do. It's all praise and it's all right. It's not me that's glorified in acts of worship. It's the worshipers. I don't hear the words they say. I look inside at the humility, that broken, open lowliness that is the reality, not the language. Forget the phraseology. I want burning. Be friends with your burning. Burn up your thinking and all your forms of expression. Moses, those who pay attention to ways of behaving and speaking are one sort, but lovers who burn are another. Do not impose a property tax on a burned out village. Do not scold the lover as the wrong way he talks is better than 100 right way of others. Inside the Kaaba, it doesn't matter which way you point your prayer rug. The ocean diver does not need snowshoes. The love religion has no code, no doctrine, only God. So the ruby has nothing engraved on it. It needs no markings. God began speaking deeper mysteries to Moses, vision and words which cannot be recorded here. Poured through him, he left himself and he came back. He went to eternity and came back here. Many times this happened. It's foolish of me to try to say this, and if I did say it, it would uproot our human intelligence. It would shatter all writing pens. Moses ran after the shepherd. He followed the bewildered footprints, in one place moving like a castle across a chessboard, another sideways like a bishop, now surging like a wave cresting, now sliding down like a fish, always with his feet making geomancy symbols in the sand, recording his wandering state. Moses caught up to him and said, I was wrong. God has revealed to me that there are no rules for worship. Say whatever and however your loving tells you to. Your sweet blasphemy is the truest devotion. Through you, a whole world is freed. Loosen your tongue and don't worry about what comes out. It's all light of the Spirit. And the shepherd replied, Moses, Moses, I've gone beyond that. You applied the whip, and my horse shied and jumped out of itself. The divine nature and my human nature came together. Bless your scolding hand and your arm. I can't say what happened. What I'm saying now is not my real condition, and it cannot be said. The shepherd grew quiet. When you look in a mirror, you see yourself, not the state of the mirror. The flute player puts breath to a flute, and who makes the music? Not the flute player. Whenever you speak praise or thanksgiving to God, it's always like this dear shepherd's simplicity. When you eventually see through the veil to how things really are, you will keep saying again and again, this is certainly not like we thought it was.
Awesome. It has so many messages in there. And that's a lesson for those that love to follow dogma and love to tell everybody how to worship God and what to feel and how to pray and how to believe, you know. And it's like we each have our journey with the great I am. We each have our path, and he uses us and he rejoices in the way that we do things. It's only man that puts man down for being different. So that was an awesome, awesome poem. So let's see some of the right here. So Jason says, I think that someone needs to learn how to be in touch with their feelings. When I was a boy, I would not accept crying. Experience to understand your emotions, been around the track. And he says, lovely. And I think a lot of people are told not to feel, whether it's, you don't even have to be a man. I mean, my father would always tell me when I started to cry about anything, you want to cry for real? And he would grab his belt and it was like, okay, no,
it's a Latin thing.
It's a Latin thing, you know. It's like, okay. So children's talk when hens pee. When do hens
see that happen?
Hens don't pee. I'm like, so I can't talk. So it's like, it's so wrong to shut people down, you know, to make them think and believe that they're wrong in what they feel and what they think, you know. So that poem was like spot on. I mean, it hits so many points, you know, so many points.
It's one of my favorites for that. Every time I read it, I get something different from it. I like the fact in it that even Moses, and you know, and Moses is a great prophet, and he, you know, he was subject right there to his self-righteousness, telling somebody else, hey, you can't talk about God like that. I'm Moses, I can tell you. And God come to him and go, hey, wait a minute, are you here to bring people to me or to make them run away? What's going on with this? So I mean, and that part for me is like, wow, okay, I'm like that too, you know?
And that's what happens a lot in fundamental Christianity. I mean, we've experienced that recently with, you know, the whole thing that happened with Derek and the whole, you know, controversy and stuff. I mean, it's like people are like saying, you guys are like, you know, you're off in some other, you know, belief system and God have mercy on you and you're basically going to hell, you know? So, I mean, they don't understand. you know, that God isn't like that, you know.
There's
That's
no
not-
one way of believing. There's no one path, you know. And I think God reads our hearts, and I think that's the common denominator. You know, God is going to read what, you know, and how you are presenting. It doesn't matter what burnt offering you're bringing to God. That's what happened between Cain and Abel. It's what is in your heart. You know, it's like, I sometimes I don't have words to explain, but we can't base life on dogma, because when we do, on dogma, politics, finances, and all this stuff, we fail, and we're failing miserably, and we have been failing miserably for eons.
And the thing is that I don't really think that, I mean, the Bible says it in certain parts, but it says, you know, that he's not a respecter of persons, and that God looks on the heart, and he doesn't look on, you know, the outside as men would do and stuff like that. So it all speaks to the fact that the spirit is what is eternal. This right here, all of this is temporary, you know, it's not going to last, you know. So why would a God be concerned about that as much, you know?
It's true. I mean, it's like it's all based on dogma, rules. I think Moses came with a law, but no one really knew God through these laws. You know, it's like when we really started to know God is when Christ came, and when we started receiving that consciousness that allowed us to see God. You know, it's crazy stuff. So we were talking before we went on regarding, and going back to the Aspie thing, and I'm sure a lot of people can relate with this. You were saying that you were having a bad Aspie day, and I've had those days. You've had those days. We all have these days where we're like, it almost seems like we're not connected. Like the computer is not, you know, we need a defrag or something to run correctly. Can you go into that a little further for us?
Oh my God, it's exactly like that. A lot of times I do not feel connected to this vessel at all. I woke up, I don't know, I was kind of out of sorts, and I know when I'm feeling really kind of weirdly, I call it a meltdown, when you're feeling emotional over just stuff that's happening, but it's not like you can't handle it. And I guess I say the symptomology really rears its head. Like today, I had moments of rocking and hand flicking, which I really usually keep under control. I was sitting on the couch with my roommate, and he's talking to me, and I'm just looking at him like, and he looks at me, he goes, "You know I'm joking, right?" And I said, "No." And he goes, "Oh, well, I'm joking." And I said, "I didn't know that." He goes, "Well, if you ever think that I'm being serious or you don't want to, just say something, Micki, just say something." And I'm like, okay. But it really hit home sometimes how hard it is communication for people like us, how difficult it is to sometimes connect with other people. And then you brought this up, and we were talking about churches and things like that. I don't know about you, but I've noticed that me and some of my other Aspie friends, we sure do like rules. We like things to be lined out, and here's a system, and you know, and I'm gonna do this every day. Routine. That's the word I'm looking for. Rules and routines. We feel very comfortable in an environment like that. But if somebody else is making the rules, then it becomes very uncomfortable very quickly. But if we can make our own rules and our own routine, we do very well. Do very well.
Yeah, because we're like in a systematic type of, it's almost like a robotic brain that Aspies work under. And, you know, everything has to be organized. Everything has to follow a pattern. If you take it a step further, autistic people are even worse. I mean,
Here's Unix says, I'm autistic.
Yes, yes. I've treated, I'm an occupational therapist, so I've treated autistic kids where if you remove something from the way they've patterned it, they go as much as to having a massive meltdown, temper tantrum, banging their heads. Yeah. You know, Asperger's, we're not that far, but we can. I mean, I've seen that in you. You've seen that in me. Sometimes if we're, yeah, and it's like we take a point, and until I have driven that point to the ground, until I know you've understood what I'm trying to say, I won't stop. And then it's like, yeah, and we could drive people crazy with that because it's like, but no, you don't understand. It's like, and then are you still at that? And it's like, oh my God, when we're both in the Aspie thing, it's like, ding, 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 your corner over there, your corner over there. Yeah, but then I'm the type of person that I don't believe in like, you're going to run away from the situation. We're going to talk about this and we're going to deal with this now. Because you're laughing over there. Go ahead and put your input, Micki.
I'm not laughing at you guys. I'm just laughing because it's so true. It's just so funny. I mean, but you said that we're going to tell you how it is in 3 different languages, darn it. We are. And we're going to draw diagrams and we're going to go over this about 100 times until you can recite it verbatim just like me. Yeah.
And it's not a control issue and it's not anything like that. It's like in our heads, we're like, oh my God, this diagram has gone this way and we need to bring it back like the Rubik's Cube thing, you know, get it perfectly aligned. Because if it's this way, bad things are going to happen. I can't deal with it. So let's align it. And then I don't want to align it. And it's like, oh, but we have to align it. And it's like, and it's not always that way with me. Sometimes I'm like, I don't have the Aspie moments all the time. But when I'm in there, it's like, oh God, please help me get through this.
Someone picks a fight online and stuff. And well, with the whole Derek.
Yeah, that's what happened with Derek. It's like we made it an Aspie thing, and it was like, oh yeah, we're going to destroy you. And blah, 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 making videos, and it's like crazy. And then when we're out of the Aspie moment, it's like, what did we do? What
do that?
Why? I mean, it's like
purpose.
It's like I believe exactly what Derek believes, and I know that you have different upbringing, but you're not there. You know?
I'm not.
Yeah. Crazy stuff, I tell you. God has a massive sense of humor when He created all of us.
He really does. I'm amazed at how much grace, you know, we can have, you know, when we allow ourselves to look beyond, you know, that physical, that, you know, mental lockdown that we put ourselves into, and we like embrace what, you know, what the message of love is, the message of acceptance, the message of compassion and mercy. I mean, when we look at life through that lens, you know, it just becomes so much clearer, you know.
Definitely. Does anybody have any questions for Micki? All of you that are watching, she said, joined us. And Eunuch. Eunuch, are you full-blown autistic or Asperger? Because there is a massive difference, and there's a spectrum, right?
There is a spectrum. Actually, there isn't a difference. Asperger's came from Carl Asperger in the late 1940s. Did some things that decided that autism was not an all or nothing thing, that it was more like a scale. I always picture a number line. And like, you know, we did in school as kids. And so when you have what they call high functioning autism, this is what they call Asperger's, because, you know, we're not sitting in the corner doing this 24/7. Maybe a few times a day, but so it's really the same thing, but we've all, you know, it's easier for us as high functioning people to say we're Aspie rather than autism, because autism does really come with some negative connotations in the social world. I tell people, you know, I have autism. I get everything from, no, you're not. What? To, oh, you're crazy. You're one of those crazy people. I just could not trust you and I cannot be around you. And I'm like, well, autistic people are some of the most awesomely honest to a fault people you ever meet. You ask them a question and we're just going to blurt out the answer. I don't care if you wanted to hear it or not. You're getting the truth, right?
And that gets us into trouble every single time, especially in a relationship. And it's like, you know, you kind of learn. I've had to learn to like filter things out. Like, okay, I'm not going to say what I feel right now because it'll get me in massive trouble. But most of the time, it's just. And
the filter is gone.
Yeah.
It's gone.
Yeah.
So Eunuch says, I have 16 of 19 traits.
Wow. I think it's a beautiful thing. I think it's like, you notice that there's a lot of Aspies or a lot of autisms in the world. I mean, they're trying to blame the vaccines, but maybe there's not a biological reason. Maybe it's something spiritual that's taking place. Like we talked before we got on the show regarding indigo kids and crystal kids, you know, to bring the vibration of this planet. And there's something that's taking place to help with the healing, to help with the ascension that's going to happen. What are your thoughts on that?
What I have noticed, is a how do I put it? Dialectically opposite kind of thing going on with Asperger's people. Like, so we're so locked into logic and common sense, and we have a limited range of emotion. But then again, God made us empaths. Most of us are empaths. Most of the autistic people that I've been around are empaths. And so we don't get it. So did he make us the empaths because of the fact that we can't see socially? And because if we could feel that and see socially, it might be too much. Do you know what am I making myself clear? So I really try to think of, but really a lot of people that I know that are on the autistic scale are empaths. And I find that very, very interesting.
Definitely. Tracy says her youngest, who is 12, is severely autistic. Oh my gosh. I see us doing the RV educational tour in our future. Definitely, definitely.
And the victim of vaccines at 18 months.
Yes, yes. And I think there's something, gosh, you know, I like to think that disease and disorders get started by an initiator and a promoter. And as cancer, you know, you need the initiator and the promoter to have cancer. Same thing with any type of disease and the disorder. So we might be looking at a spiritual realm, things happening, and also with certain things that these dark lords are using to maybe, you know, speed up certain things that are happening. But there's so much education needed, you know, so much beyond just the medical scope, because this medical scope only has a certain amount of answers. We have to look at things spiritually as well as physically. And I think that's why there's a physical body and a spiritual body, and we need to learn how to balance that somehow.
And Tracy considers, also wanted to add, she is my fourth. However, I see her now as the ascended one, perfect as she is, got off the bandwagon of trying to make her like me.
Exactly, because these kids are teaching us. You know, like I said, first it was the indigo, now the crystal. You know, and it's like they come out of the womb like geniuses.
Yeah, she said she's perfect. Like pure Christ spirit.
Yeah, and they
honor that the Father chose me to care for her.
Yes, and they're like, I've seen these kids where they're crying when they're seeing people eating animal products because they go, I don't want to eat that. You can't eat that. You know, it's like when I was a kid, I was like, I hated eating beef, chicken, or anything like that. Like, what did I know? But I was like, no, I don't want to eat that.
I used to get the eggs in the refrigerator and try to put them in the oven to
help them
incubate them. You know, because Lucy did.
Crazy stuff.
That's so cute.
You know,
I used to hide my meat too. I ripped a hole in the seat cushion and I pushed it in there. My parents finally had to get rid of that dining set because it started stinking and they couldn't figure it out. Because it's all the meat stuffed in the chair.
At home, I would give it to my dog, and at school, I would put in this little purse that I had. And when the teacher caught me doing that, and it was like I didn't want to eat it, you know. And it's just like there's this knowing. And again, no judgment for those that like to eat, you know, animal products. We're all in our journey. We all have our our own thing. But you know, it's just like I'm just amazed by these children, because I never thought I'd be a people person because of my Asperger, but I've learned that I love to learn about people. I get marveled by seeing their actions and trying to understand them, and no longer wanting to fix them, because that used to be my thing. It's just like, wow, you know, it's like, it's a marvel. I can't explain it. So
yeah, Puerto Ricans are, you know, they're taught to eat lots of meat, especially pork, and for some reason, I was exposed to going to Seventh-day Adventist school, like from 4th through 6th and then 8th grade. And they were vegetarians, and they were eating soy before soy was even known to be edible or something, right? And I just remember thinking, you know, these people, they know something about, you know, being healthy, and, you know, they live longer lives. And it was like, you know, there's this understanding. And, you know, the church would write these people off as being a cult, as being, you know, like Mormons are like, oh, they're like totally demonic, right? That's what they would call them. And, you know, if anybody didn't speak in tongues, you know, because I came from a Pentecostal background, oh, they're not going to heaven, you know? So all this judgment, but realizing that there's just so much more, you know.
As Tracy says she teaches me every day, and she eats no animal products, all natural, zero processed, anything I grind her food daily. That's, yeah, because they know. It's like these kids nowadays, oh my God, they have such wisdom, and they have the Father in them. They're born with that Christ consciousness. Totally. Go ahead and read what Hannah says.
Well, she's repeating what
Okay.
Tracy said, but she said that is just the
It
real
is
truth
beautiful.
of it. And it is so beautiful to have a child that has that pure spirit that can actually, you know, a child can teach us.
And isn't
you know?
that what Christ came to tell us to be in our childlike minds, right, Micki?
Yeah, he did. He said to you have to be like a child to come to him. And you think about that, what does a child have? A child has wonderment. A child has curiosity. A child doesn't, you know, children don't hate until we teach them how to. They love everything and everyone. They don't have judgment or anything. They're just, you know. I have 3 children myself, and my middle daughter was a very special girl. Now she's grown up and she's, you know, doing her own thing. But I mean, I just remember her as she was such a delight, you know, every day with her was just such a delight. She was just so cool. She had spirit friends. That was her imaginary friends, were spirit friends.
And I'm sure they were not imaginary because
I know, but
yeah, because I would see spirits as a kid, you know, and they weren't imaginary. And I know that I would see them. But, you know, as you get older, you get tainted. So you don't see as much as you do when you're younger because you're in that innocence. You don't have that filter. That filter is what kills us. But it's, you know, crazy. I mean, I love, you know, to learn and hear there are other people like me, that I'm not some crazy loony and alone. And it's just, you know.
Well, you still are, but.
You're just not alone, right? But it's an amazing thing. And that's what I love, you know, bringing on guests and friends to share their story, because it's a wonderful thing.
And for me, being caught up in, you know, being raised as a Christian for all of my life, we're not allowed to experience these things. We're not allowed to see these things. We're not allowed to explore these things, you know. And, you know, everything is always like, there's a devil under every rock. If there's something that, wow, gosh, that doesn't ring right, that must be the devil, you know. So, you know, autistic kids, Aspergery kids. I remember this one kid. He, when I was going to Bible college, Sunday mornings, this kid was just so excited. He was an autistic kid, and he just like, he would blurt out in the middle of the service. And the pastor was very gracious. He understood and knew who this kid was and knew it was his way of expression. But then one day, an evangelist came and spoke, a special speaker, right? Kid broke out and just, he's like, that, you need to stop. That is not of God, you know? And it was like, the kid was like traumatized, you know? Because it's like, these are special giftings, you know? It's a gifting to be a Down syndrome child. It's a gifting to be autistic, you know? That is a blessing. That is not a curse. We are cursed, you know? Or, you know, those that don't have these things, they're the ones that are disabled.
Yeah.
I totally agree. I think that, you know, our autism kind of keeps us childlike in a way, and that helps. The Mormons have a belief about people with developmental disabilities. They're only here for the body. They don't have to do anything. They're already spiritually perfected, and they're just here to get the body so that they can ascend, and that they're actually just here as angels to teach the rest of us.
Yes.
Wow.
So I always thought that was pretty cool. So I kind of kept that.
That is a beautiful way of looking at it.
Well, does anybody have any questions for Micki? Or Micki, do you have any questions for anyone? Let's see, Tracy, go ahead and read that.
Oh, she goes, I puree sweet potatoes, apples, pears, chia seeds,
Yummy.
moringa, psyllium husk, flaxseed, coconut oil, cashew butter, and she loves it. Anything new I have to add in the smallest increments over a course of months.
Yes, because we like, you know,
like cats.
Yeah, we like certain things, and when we like certain things, we like to repeat those certain things because, you know, it gives us comfort. And, you know, what is it,
Don't
detouring too much
change
from
the
that.
habit.
It's like, okay, no.
Yeah.
You have to be prepared for that change, right, Micki?
Yes, you do. You have to, I mean, I'm an adventurous person and I like to travel, but that's part of a routine for me is traveling. I know that sounds funny, but I've made it kind of a routine. And you can make games out of going new places and being places where you're not comfortable.
Right.
Whatever it works, you know. I always say it's hard to be a smart girl in a dumb world. So
There you go.
So have you kind of like connected what you were learning in paganism and in Christianity with what you believe now, or did you throw all of that stuff away? I mean, how did you meld it together, or did you
there's wisdom in all things, and I think that it's good to understand what other people believe, especially as far as the adversary. It's important that to know what the people that are on his side believe and what they think. um, for me, I know that sounds pretty funny, but I studied flat earth because I wanted to tell my friend he was full of poop, and come to find out, by studying flat earth, it caused me to question so many things that had just been, that's what it is, that's what it is, that's what it is, and that I had just accepted and ate like pablum and integrated into my being. When I learned to question every single thing, all of a sudden the truth was just standing there. Does that make sense? And
Yes.
so there is wisdom in all things, in everything. That doesn't make it your truth. Maybe it makes it my truth. You know what I mean? But I don't believe that it's okay to do sacrifices. I don't believe in doing magic. Okay. I believe that vibration is creation, and this is how God created the world, because he said he spoke and it happened. And this is a vibration. So whatever vibration we are, with our vibration, we are creating constantly. For me, this is part of what God is, you know. This is how the world is held together. So in this theology I've created for myself, I can have my quantum mechanics and my string theory. It allows for all beliefs of all religions, and it allows for me to be able to see my God in the tiniest things and in the biggest things and in myself, which is really important.
And I totally relate with you, because I believe that everything's needed and everything kind of is connected. And it's how you use these things, whether you use them for good or bad. Even the so-called magic used for good is not bad, because we need magic sometimes in our life to make wonderful things happen, to heal one another. I'm not opposed to the flat earth theory, because there are times when I'm thinking we're just a simulation, and space is really not there. It's some sort
That's
of
what they're
telling us to
is.
believe, and God only knows what the truth is. And there's
over 100 Bible verses that talk about the state of the earth, and if you put them all together, it's flat. So
yeah. So
that's what I believe.
So I'm not gonna say no, I don't believe that. I'm always open to anything and everything, because anything and everything is possible. This dogma about this is the only way to go through this path. Even Google, when you put an address in, gives you several ways of getting there. Google Map. So
what do you think of like the natural things of this earth? Like, Mark was into like crystals and other, types of, like we have like what is that?
dream catchers.
A dream catcher. We also had like, when I was injured and I was given like a 25% chance at recovering, Mark was like into all the saging and all the energy work that he would do and stuff. And I can't say that it didn't help. I mean, I honestly, he took me out to the rocks one day here outside of Silver City, and he's like, you can feel the energy of, and I was like, come on, this is an inanimate object. I mean, we're taught, this is just a rock, right? So I touched it and it was like pulsating electric vibrations. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is like real. You know, this is like, you know, connecting to source, connecting to
Yeah, because it all comes from
God.
the higher power. I mean, I'm
don't
just
know.
the vehicle, you know?
What do you think about that?
I agree with him. It all comes from God, and we are the vehicle, and He gives us everything we need. So, like, one of my beliefs is that for every disease or malady that's on this planet, there is something here to cure it.
Exactly.
Okay, a plant or the crystals, they do resonate. They do resonate. There's a Japanese guy who did the water experiment where he put jars of water in rooms and he put labels on them. People went in and they projected that towards the water, and then when they looked at it under the microscope, the things, the love and the thank you and gratitude, these waters created these beautiful crystals in them on a microscopic level. The ones that said, oh, you're sick, or I hate you, or whatever, they looked horrible. They looked like it looked like pollution. It was terrible. And you think about it, your body is 85% water. So what are your thoughts doing to you?
Exactly.
What are you bringing in? What is it doing to you?
Yeah.
Exactly.
And that's how you heal. You know, they give you the majority of pills that doctors give you pretty much placebo. If you believe that pill is going to heal you, then it's going to heal you. You know, and doctors even say it. A lot of this stuff is just side effects and placebo.
Yeah.
Because what's ultimate healing you is you are healing yourself through that energy being, you know, brought down by the great I am. So Hannah says, I so would love to connect to all three of you. Well, you could get a hold of us at transitionradioshow@gmail.com. I don't know if you have an email that you wanted to share with the viewers.
I do. It's a little long. It's mickyofthemountains@gmail.com. That's MICKIOFTHEMOUNTAINS.
Okay.
At
You're
Gmail.
trying to type it in the chat. Repeat that again.
Okay.
Repeat
Mickey of the Mountains.
Okay.
All one word.
Micki, right?
Yeah.
of the mountains.
That's my made up name.
Hey,
That's the name I gave myself.
that's beautiful.
Micki of the
transition.
Mountains at
Gmail.
okay.
Yes. So yeah, I've always, and since I was a little kid, I've always believed in the ability to heal. I've always, you know, it's like I've even felt that I can move objects. My father would laugh at me because as a kid, I would sit there for hours trying to move objects. It's like a feeling that I had that I was able to do this or levitate. And my father was like, "What is wrong with you?" And I'm like, I know that I could do this. It's almost like a memory from another, you know, I don't know, crazy.
So when I was about 9 years old, I was sitting in church and I got this sickness just came over me. I became very feverish and really delusional. And my father picked me up off the pew and took me to the back, and then the bishopric, that's a group of men in the priesthood, they came and they took me in this room and they did the laying on the hands with the oil and everything. And I'll kid you not, within a half an hour, I was perfectly fine. Perfectly fine. And, you know, as much as I don't believe what the Mormons, the way they do things, is not my path, they did have the power to heal. Because they take the Melchizedek priesthood and the Aaronic priesthood very seriously. Which are the priesthood of Christ. So the Melchizedek priesthood is a priesthood.
That's why Christ said, "You two will do greater things than I." You know, and that is what Derek is teaching, that we have the capability of having that Christ within us, the Christ consciousness, that ability to tap into that beautiful Christ consciousness that will allow us to do the things that Christ did and more.
And one of the reasons that Jesus said that their God was the devil was because these Pharisees, they weren't even of the line of the Aaronic priesthood. They weren't even of the line. You know, John the Baptist was the one who had that lineage, and he should have been a priest in Jerusalem at the time. But, you know, these people, they were just politically posturing. They were just trying to make a buck and keep their system going. So they were in it to win it for themselves, you know. So they weren't serving the real God. So when you get connected, like you said, that family of Mormon ministers and stuff that prayed for you, they were tapping into real essence, right? The real essence of the God of all, right?
Hello, James. Welcome. Good evening. And let's see, Susie said.
Oh, wait. Hannah said,
I feel I've truly come home to my real brothers and sisters with this incredible GW family, as I call it now. Listening to you all is like looking in a mirror. Thank you. Beautiful. I mean, I feel that too. You know, I feel that.
And a viewer, Susie's 11 says, Micki, have you heard of Norb's World, flat Earth geocentric model?
No, I've never heard of it.
Never heard of that.
Norbs?
Norbs.
I haven't either.
Norbz.
I've looked into the flat Earth, and I said, like, I'm open to anything because anything is possible, but I haven't heard of the other. And Tracy says, I used to think all of the crystal alchemy conversation was all a bunch of crap and a sign of a person who does not know God. I was very judgmental until
my shaman mystic, whatever you want to call her, sister of mine, that is the carrier of a 35-pound Lemurian, wow, crystal skull, lived with me for 4 years and would also do a banishing in my house with sage.
Yes, when you and I first started, I mean, every day, sage juice, sage the house, get rid of, you know, and
because we have lots of people, negativity.
Yeah.
And, you know, one of the biggest things that I think is one of the most powerful destructive forces on the earth today is that spirit of religion that is all over this world. And it's affecting, you know, entire millions of people, you know.
So let's see, ask Lucy, mostly dinner unless heavy lunch. I do have autoimmune issues that are being worked on, but not sure.
I think that was in relation to another
question. Because I'm like
going. Yorick was put up and down the San Joaquin River, and that next spring, drought was over for the Central Valley. Coincidence? I think not. Look at the question part.
Oh, okay. So the question part was...
What question?
No, I don't think
you saw it?
No,
I didn't.
Keep going down a little bit.
No, I don't see. It's Ask Lucid. I was looking for it. I didn't see it.
So it's, to me, I look forward to learning something new every day. I mean, it's like I'm hungry for information. I love YouTube because YouTube has been a massive university. You know, it's like, my gosh, the things that you could learn. We spend 12 years in school, then go to college. We don't learn half as much as we literally learn watching YouTube videos. And it's almost like a quickening, you know, that's taking place.
You're not learning at school. You're being indoctrinated to be a good little citizen. That's all.
Exactly. And once
you come out of school and you go to life, and then that's when you learn things. Exactly. Like emergence. I'm pretty sure that, Mark, you've had emergence, and so you're not as autistic as you once used to be.
Yes.
So it's kind of like when we grow up and we learn to assimilate things and kind of doesn't mean it goes away, because it's actually like our brain's wired different. But we become more in the world, so to speak.
Yes.
And I forgot where I was going with that whole emergence thing, but whatever. I apologize.
That's exactly what you're saying. So let me see if I could try to answer.
Mark, I used to do that too. I am cracking up over here.
I tell you. I want to find out what Ask Lucid.
I didn't see it.
Can you write that question again, Ask Lucid, so we could, because mostly dinner unless heavy lunch. I'm trying to see if I can make out.
But there's nothing to make out.
Let me see. I might be able to. Mostly dinner unless heavy lunch. I do have an autoimmune issues that are being worked on, but not sure it's related. Regarding food disorders, I'm not quite sure.
I don't know. It's really unrelated unless we have that other piece of information.
No. I just don't want to ignore. Can you write the question or give us a little bit more on that so that, and Micki, if we're taking too much of your time, you know, we understand. And you're good? You're good with time?
Yeah, I'm good. I got my dog a babysitter for the night.
Okay.
Oh, nice. So do you, so as far as spirituality, do you attend a church? Do you worship on your own, or do you worship at all? Or do you?
I'd like to think that my life is a prayer. I live here in beautiful Montana. I mean, earlier you could see out my window. That's a real view. That's not a picture. I live in the woods. And so when I go outside every day, God's handiwork is just staring me in the face. I see the most amazing and beautiful things if I just be still and just let it happen. For me, that's my church. That's the way I worship. I just, I'm so grateful for when I'm out there. I'm just so grateful for everything. That's my prayer. And then my life should be a prayer. I read something called a book called Pilgrim's Progress.
Sure.
And I don't know if you've read that, but you're supposed to pray unceasingly. And so the guy goes through this whole thing of trying to pray unceasingly. First, he's saying it with his lips, and then he's just trying to do it with his head. And then he realizes it's your behavior, how you act, where your heart is. That's your prayer. That's your life. That's how you worship God.
Yes.
And I try to adopt that myself.
Yeah, because the whole concept of let's sit down and pray,
I
it's
can
like,
never.
yeah,
I could never grasp that.
it's like, yeah,
It was like that doesn't even feel genuine.
right.
You
It's you're in constant prayer with the great I am, with Source, just by living the life that it's almost like I can't even. It's like a dance that you do. I can't even put words to it, and how you're present in everything that you do, from washing dishes to making food to. It's almost like you allow him to or her to intertwine with what you're doing, and you're sharing these experiences with.
Well, it's like the Bible says, whatever you do all to the glory of God, So that whole concept of just like, I always really connected with being out in nature and, finding God there, and being in church was always so artificial.
It is.
It just never really made sense to me.
I used to fall asleep all the
sense.
time. It was like, okay, when I would wake up, and it's like, oh, they're in this time, okay, because it's like a repeat, rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat, rinse, and it's like, where's God in all that? It's just so godless, in my opinion.
Oh, a question that I was going to ask you, and it was regarding something that we were talking about when we first started the show. I was kind of throwing this out there for Mark this morning or this afternoon. Do you think that we, as a physical creation, whoever made us, are actually a higher form of like artificial intelligence? We were watching something about how they were doing MK Ultra experiments and stuff like that, and how they were really dialing into the brain and really trying to tweak it and everything. And it's like, are we just this big? Are we physically like a program? And since we're so electrical and we have hydrogen, I don't know. Our spirit isn't. But.
I really don't know how to explain the material world. How we maybe consciously project it, and then we all agree this is a table, this is a cup, blah, blah, blah. So we're all cool with that. But I don't think it's AI. I don't think it's a program, because it's not. That knowing that you're talking about, I think personally, these NPCs, or what I call the soulless ones, and AI are meant to be vessels for demons, honestly, because they can't have a physical body. When they went their way, they gave up the ability to enjoy this paradise that God gave to us. So the only way they can get it is by cheating. So either you're going to invite the demon into you and have a mental illness, or you're going to be a soulless one that are born now. There's a lot of soulless children born, and that can inhabit one of those bodies, or can inhabit an AI. Otherwise, they don't have the opportunity to have what we have, and they're so jealous of that too. They are so jealous.
It's really crazy, this documentary we're watching, because they've been doing experiments since 1945, even earlier, with the CIA doing MK Ultra, and learning how easily human beings are programmable. I mean, they're doing different things, and this is not something they hide. It's out there. It's finally been put out in the open of the terrible things that they've done, and I'm sure they're still continuing to do it. I think that possibly not being an AI, but that we are very easily programmable, because we're like children. Our minds, our spirit and flesh bodies are pretty much not the same. It's almost like if we go in the theory of what Jeff believes, or that we are, that rat bastard, as he calls Yahweh, created the flesh, and that they somehow tricked our spirit into going into these fleshy bodies. And so they're trying to keep us here in this dimension and just kind of programming our brains so that we don't get to ascend. Something near that nature is what I got from what I heard in the documentary today.
Well, I think you're right about wanting to keep us trapped here. You know, it's very easy to fall into addictions and things like that will keep us trapped in, because we're physical. Now we're focused on the physical instead of the spiritual. The MK Ultra thing is so scary. But you'll notice that I know I talk about autism a lot. It's one of my pet things, but is that people with autism, although we seem very la la la, in the long run, is very difficult to program or brainwash somebody like us because our logic always pokes holes in things.
Yes, I agree.
That's why Lena has such a hard time at church, because it doesn't make sense to you.
Right.
It doesn't make sense in the way that they worship God, because you know the spirit and you're like, this is not it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's like everything is equated to being a feeling, an emotional experience. And, you know, that's not what it's about.
Yeah.
It's about spirit. It's about connection. It's about knowing, you know, but not necessarily being trapped in the feeling of it, you know.
Hello, Debbie. Welcome. So I think they kind of explained something here, but I think they were kind of
They were asking about, I think it was
a fast.
Lucid.
She said she was going to do a 48-hour fast on the 27th.
Oh, she said it.
Yeah. And then I think that's where the other question came from. Ask Lucid.
No, I don't know.
No.
They just kept on.
Yeah.
They moved on.
Yeah.
So. I need to go to a nutritionist or maybe an endo. Just thought I would ask. Okay. Sorry to interrupt. Thank you, Emmanuel.
Not a problem.
Oh, so you guys do the 1 meal a day thing, right?
Yes, we do.
But you drink liquid all day long?
I'm the one that usually drinks water, and right now the reason I'm drinking a little bit more water because I started taking oil of oregano. I've had this really, since the argument with, I hadn't gotten sick in forever, and since we were arguing with GW or Derek, and we had that one interview with him on his channel that we took it down or whatever, but I got the sinus infection, and then the sinus infection led to my tooth being acted up. So I'm taking oil of oregano, which I swear by it. To me, it's the best antiviral, antibiotic, natural form. And so you need to drink water in order for the body to filter it through and flush it out. But I drink water. Sometimes if I want to do the dry fasting within those 23 hours, and I won't drink anything. I just kind of listen to my body, you know.
As a friend of mine turned me on to something called the snake diet, and it's not really a diet; it's a way of eating, like a snake does. You eat, and then you don't eat until your body gets hungry again. But you have to train yourself to understand what real hunger is.
Exactly.
And I'm just terrified. But you guys look great, only eating 1 meal a day. I'm like, hey,
it's not hard at all. Remember, hunger. Most people have never experienced hunger in their life. Just because your stomach is empty and growling, it doesn't mean it's hungry. It's just the stomach is empty and the acids in there are doing their thing. Right. You know, when your digestive system shuts down in 3 days, that discomfort goes away. I mean, we've done like 9-day, 14-day water fasts in the past. True hunger comes from the cell, and you will know it because you cannot function. You will get dizzy. You want to die, throw up, the whole 9 yards. So, you know, it's just a programming that we think we have to eat every 2 or 3 hours because this, that, and the other. But
just because you feel like
that growling in the stomach, that's not true hunger at all. So you'll be okay. You won't die. Promise.
Okay. I believe you because you guys still, you still have color in your face. You don't look pale or drawn out or like, oh, I'm dying. You know what I mean? So
actually, since we used to do the 16-8, which we had 2 meals a day. Our first meal was usually at 12. Then we had our last meal around 6 or 7. Then we upgraded ourselves to just 1 meal a day. And it's the best thing that we've ever done. And
the crazy thing is that the longer you eat this way, the more efficient your body becomes to not even needing as much food.
When you do
so now, I used to really be concerned because I wanted to get full. It was my 1 meal, right? So I would put like a cup of oatmeal in. And after that, now
Yeah.
we're doing like half a cup, because it doesn't,
you get
we
full.
just don't need as much.
What happens is your body becomes really efficient at getting the nutrients, because now, you're efficient at detoxifying. The body's really using up a lot of its nutrient that you weren't using up before. So before you know it, you'll need less and less. It's just as long as you're putting the basic vitamins and minerals in the food that you are eating, so that your body becomes healthy. I feel, my gosh, I'm 54 years old, and we train on an empty
48,
stomach.
So
Yeah, I lift weights on an empty stomach. I don't ever feel lightheaded. I don't ever feel, I sleep soundly. We don't need but 6-7 hours of sleep.
Hannah says, I've been called crazy because I only eat when I'm hungry.
And that's how it should be. That's how it should be.
And Tracy says, I really relate with how Micki explained the sensation of being less connected to the body, the flesh, as time goes on. This is huge, she says.
Awesome. Okay.
So yeah, it's crazy. I mean, it's just a wonderful thing to be able to be in an environment where you don't have to feel judged for asking questions.
Yeah.
It's like, in the church, if you asked a question, it'd be like, because God said it, that's why. You need to just follow it, and you don't need to question your beliefs, and this is this and that. And it's like, and if you don't have faith, that's why faith is believing without seeing, and seeing without believing. And it's like, yeah, but why?
Yeah, or the Bible says, but that's,
Right.
it's a conundrum, really. So we're going to go ahead and share, and if you don't mind hanging around, Micki, we're going to share a letter that somebody wrote, and I wanted to make a prayer, or if you feel comfortable in leading the ending prayer, you're more than welcome as our guest to do so. If you don't,
I'm going to be misogynistic and say that the male should lead the prayer, but this is part of my favorite part of your guys' show, so rock on.
Okay. So anyway, let's see here. Okay. Hi, Mark and Lena. When people tell truth and it challenges your own heavy conditioning, even to the point of feeling nauseous, it's taken years for me to break through the heavy false doctrinal conditioning. Sometimes the resistance is incredible, but once you see it, you can't unsee it. Wonderful what is happening and what you're doing.
I was listening to your talk about the walk-in theory, and it was really interesting that what you said. It's something I've been wondering about lately and was deliberating whether to respond on your comment section or to PM you. I thought it best to PM you because I could imagine the response given by those who don't really understand. I'm considering the theory that a walk-in could possibly be another part of our consciousness.
Since I experienced the ME, I've become aware of our other realities that most people at the moment couldn't conceive, and I know I'm not deluded. You talk reminded me of a dream I had a couple of years ago. I was at a stage in my life where I was totally exhausted, physically, mentally, and emotionally. In the dream, I was walking in a huge shopping mall, and I remember just collapsing. I was lying down, not being able to move, when a clear, strong voice within me said, "Get up." I then had the strength given to me instantly to get up.
I know that voice was a version of me, but another me, if that makes sense. A witness of the witness of the witness, LOL. I'm considering the theory that there could possibly be parallel realities existing and working simultaneously.
Like the concept of mind, body, and spirit as being one but separate. There could be fractions of ourselves in another place, like looking after and protecting ourselves with our highest selves, connected with God, all happening at once. Maybe the other one step in and intervenes when trauma or something like that is happening.
I know this sounds woo-woo, which is why I decided not to comment publicly. But the question's still out there, and I experienced too much to go back into my safe little box of thinking. One thing I do know for sure, we're all connected to a beautiful family on all levels of consciousness in the heavenlies, and we are so loved. Thanks again for your time and much love.
Jazz, she said it was okay to share her name. So there's not a prayer attached to this, but I think that it's a prayer that we should ask our Heavenly Father to help us continue to search and grow, and feel free to do that for all of us that don't feel that we want to be placed in this religious box, that we're being condemned by those that want us to follow this religious box. So I think it's appropriate to bring in a prayer regarding that. And I'm not passionate about that. I'm usually passionate about certain things. So either you or Micki, we can toss the coin.
It doesn't matter.
And do you feel comfortable, Micki, to?
I really don't know that much about that subject.
Okay.
That's all right.
So,
Yeah, we'll just go with it.
yeah, go ahead. And if I feel inclined, because usually if I feel inspired, then I'll join in.
Okay.
Okay.
Heavenly Father, God of all, as Micki says, calls you Abba, Daddy. We just come before you now. We just thank you for this opportunity, this time that we have to be able to share our hearts and to be able to be open, honest, and vulnerable with each other. And I just thank you for Micki and God for just letting her, just share her beauty, her wonderful wisdom, her lifetime of experience and stuff, God. And I just thank you that you've given her this opportunity to be able to ask questions and not to be condemned, to walk down paths that maybe she looks back now that she shouldn't have gone down, but God, you've used it for your glory and to bring things to light even better for her. And God, I just thank you that she is comfortable and confident in being the woman that you made her to be. And God, thank you that you didn't allow her to fall into that pit of gender confusion that Mark and I did. And Lord, we just want you to know that, that you are so important to us, that, what you do is what we need, and it might be walking us into paths of darkness. It might be walking us into paths of light. But there's a reason that the psalmist David said in Psalm 23, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. You even go as far as to prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. So God, you are the all in all, and you know everything. You have everything in control. And you're not afraid of us asking questions. You're not afraid of us inquiring, wondering, thinking. You gave us these mental capacities to do so. And I just thank you that you give us the opportunity to have this space and this time to be able to share our lives with one another. So we just thank you for this time, and we thank you for Micki, in Jesus' wonderful name.
And Father, this is Mark here. You know me since I was a little kid, and I've always had contact with you and talked to you as if you were my best friend. Father, I want you to please help those that are close-hearted and close-minded and believe that you all are about just laws, and that's not true, Father. If they got to know you the way I know you, they would know that you are a playful God, a loving God, a God that's willing to allow us to explore as the children that we are. Let these beautiful people in this planet that you have created, Father, open their hearts and their minds to accept and love you and understand that there is not one only way to get to you, Father. There are many roads to you, Father. Yeah. Help them realize this. Help them bring that joyful heart that you have given us so we could love each other as a beautiful family that we are, Father. In Jesus' name, I pray, or we pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
Amen. All right. Amen. Woo! That always...
I know there's such energy when you guys pray, just such amazing energy.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you. It's like, wow.
We just,
it's from the heart.
It started when we decided to pray for our enemy at the time. Derek Rose was, our enemy. And then things started really taking off after that. It's like God just started to work and melt my heart. And he wrote us and he said, tell Lena that I forgive her, you know, because I was not very nice and stuff. And it just,
It melted everything away.
It just melted everything away. It's like love just is the cure-all is of everything, you know. And I know that people think, oh yeah, sure, whatever. We can't be preaching this gospel of love. It's gospel of whatever they want it to be, but it's all about love. That's it. That's all this is all about.
Anything else is, you know.
And do you realize that your little journey where you went from where you were with Derek to where you are now has inspired people, and for me, it really it opened my eyes to my own hate and to my own judgment, to watch you go through this and then become humble people. And I was like, oh well, oh my God, it was put in my face for a reason. Really, definitely was put in my face for a reason, so that I could see my own judgment, my own ego, and I thought I was being cool and da da da, but I wasn't. And so you, by allowing God to work through you and do miracles in you, it has been a lesson for me and probably for a lot of other people too. And I just can't even tell you how grateful I am for that.
And you know, the beauty of it all is that in everything that's happened, I just don't feel like I have to just abandon what I believed, you know, in the sense of like the truth of like God, and you know, this awesome God of all that loves us, that we are of him, you know, we are offspring of him. And you know, it's just a beautiful thing, because you know, it's like you don't have to feel like you have to give anything up, but you can actually look at it without like judgment. You can look at a Hindu, you can look at a Buddhist, you can look at, you know, even a Luciferian, whatever. You can look at them without judgment. And that's the beauty that has come through all of this, is that when people attack us and say things and, you know, they call us names or whatever, it's like, wow, it's okay. I mean, it's not.
It's where they're at.
It's where they're at on their journey. I mean, I can't, you know, it's like, you know, people are like, so why did Derek apologize to you guys? And it's like, you know, that's not my responsibility. My responsibility is to work on my issue, right? Yeah. So Derek, it's his, you know, I don't feel like he needs to apologize for anything.
No, he hasn't done.
We felt that we needed to do so. So my apology and my contriteness doesn't depend on, you know, tit for tat. You know, somebody else doing it too. You know, you know, it's love without condition. Unconditional love.
And that's what it's all about.
That is the compassion of Christ, sister, right there.
Yeah, exactly.
Figuring it out finally.
Right.
It's taken almost 50 years, but we're getting not there. Closer.
Yes. Well, I think we could call it a night at 7:12. We don't want to take anybody's time anymore. We're so thankful for the time that you do give us. And we'll have another show tomorrow. I think we're going to take the weekend off.
Yeah.
We might be heading towards Tucson this weekend and meeting up with Gordon. That's
Gordon McWhorter.
Yes, possibility. You know, make men's. We demonized him in a way. It was like, oh my God. And it's like, you know,
blah, blah, blah.
It's crazy how we try to find a devil under every rock. So I think it's important to like make men's and you know, it's like, I'm a hugger. I love to hug. You know, to me, it's like hugging is the most healing thing. And it's really funny because usually Aspie people don't like to be like smothered or too much, but I learned that is so healing. And hugging is just like this. I can't explain it. And I'm sure, you know, you have something to say about that. You know, are you a hugger or not, Micki?
Actually, if I know the person and I like it, I don't like random touch. I don't like people to randomly touch me, but if I know you, it's all good. I'm cool with that. I've learned to this is how humans interact.
Right.
But I want to thank you very much for allowing me
you.
to come and talk with you guys. This has been super amazing. I'm so happy, and I'm filled with the spirit now because this is awesome. And
Yep.
yay!
Totally. We want to thank everybody on the chat room. Thank you so much for your time, for all your comments, and we appreciate you. Thank you, Tracy, for being the moderator.
Yes.
Although we've had all love. There's no haters in the chat room. That's
Absolutely.
awesome. That is awesome. That's always a good thing.
It is.
Well, we're going to end the show with another one of my songs. I wrote the song, gosh, when did I write this song? Back in...
We're going to have to do Christmas songs.
I know. This was back in 2014. The song is called Forgotten, and I think it has a very deep message. And, you know, when I write music, I like to write stories and things that have something, you know, to say. So anyway, we love you guys. God loves you. But remember to always love yourselves too. Good night, everybody. And here's song. Thank you, Micki. Let me see how I get this thing rolling here. Okay, and up we go.
Said the man on the road, what's your story? What's your name? As I look at his face, saw the wrinkles that he made. We live our lives with hidden pain and forgotten. It's all a game. Wearing brands, getting tans, driving cars, won't get inspired. Wondering where we'll be if our jobs taken away. Do you know where you'd go if your world fell apart? We live our lives with hidden pain and forgotten. It's all a game. Wearing brands, getting tans, driving cars won't get us far. So you see that man on the road. He had 10 once and a car of his own. And now his life took a turn, but he's happier now than he was before. With all your goods and all your toys, you're unhappy, a prisoner of this world. We live our lives with hidden pain and forgotten. It's all a game. Wearing brands, getting down, songs, driving cars won't get us far. That could be you, or that could be me. You can be that man on the streets without shoes or food to eat. You can be that man on the streets without shoes or food to eat. That could be you, or that could be me. That could be you, or that could be me. You can be that man, on the streets without shoes or food to eat. That could be you, or that could be me. You wanna be